Hello everyone, welcome to History and Culture. In ancient China's feudal society, the selection of a capital city by a dynasty was an extremely significant matter. It not only affected the efficiency of national governance, but also the stability and long-term peace of the regime. Therefore, choosing a suitable capital required consideration not only of political factors, but also of economic, geographical, cultural, and military aspects. After all, for a dynasty to develop stably, the location of the capital was the foundation of all foundations. In Chinese history, there were over 600 cities. But only a handful were fortunate enough to become the capitals of feudal dynasties. Among these few cities, one stands out in particular, Xi'an. Before the Tang Dynasty, Xi'an served as the capital for 13 dynasties, enjoying immense glory. It was almost the top-tier city of ancient China. However, after the fall of the Tang Dynasty, no subsequent dynasty ever chose Xi'an as its capital again. From its peak, Xi'an declined, gradually fading from the political center stage, becoming neglected and overlooked. So, what caused its rise and fall? According to historical records, Xi'an, known in ancient times as Hongzhang or Chang'an, became central to China's political, economic, and cultural life. Starting from the unification of the six states by Emperor Qin Shi Huang, who established his capital in Xianyang, all the way until the fall of the Tang Dynasty in 907 AD. Historically, 13 dynasties used Xi'an as their capital, including Western Zhou, Qin, Western Han, Xian, by Wang Mang. Western Jin, former Zhao, former Qin, later Qin, Western Wei, Northern Zhou, Sui, and Tang. The fact that so many dynasties chose Xi'an as their capital shows that it indeed had unique advantages. At the core of these advantages was its geographical location. By looking at a map of China, it is clear that Xi'an lies in the heart of the Guangzhou Plain, at the western gateway to the Central Plains, China's ancient Golden Zone. This plain is fertile and has a moderate climate. Known as the 800-mile Qin Chuan, it is a classic land of abundance. Even more importantly, the region is extremely rich in water resources. The ancient saying, 8 waters encircle Chang'an, refers to the 8 rivers that flow through the area, the Wei, Jing, Feng, Lao, Yu, Hao, Chan, and Ba rivers. In an agrarian society, the most important needs are food and water. And Xi'an not only had fertile land and abundant grain production, but also ample water resources. It was truly an ideal place where people could live free from worry about basic needs. Furthermore, in addition to its excellent living conditions, Xi'an also had significant military geographic advantages. Surrounded by mountains on all sides, Xi'an was a natural, basin fortress, with strong defensive capabilities. More critically, it was protected by 4 important strategic passes that formed a solid defense system. To the east, Tongguan, the ancient eastern gateway of Guangzhou, with immense strategic importance. Today, Tongguan is famous for its Old Tongguan Rujiamo meat sandwich. But in ancient times, it was the key choke point for entering or leaving the Guangzhou region. To the west, Songguan, the same pass mentioned in the poem Iron Horses in the Autumn Wind at Great Songguan, critical for defense on the western front. To the south, Wuguan, guarding the vital route to the south, acting as a barrier against southern incursions. To the north, Xiaoguan, a crucial shield against the nomadic peoples from the north. As long as these 4 passes were held, the entire city of Xi'an was like a fortress protected by walls of bronze and iron, impenetrable and unassailable. In history, it was precisely by relying on this city of natural defenses that the Qin state gradually expanded, eventually unifying the 6 states and founding the first centralized empire. However, despite Xi'an's innate geographical advantages, why was it never again chosen as a capital after the fall of the Tang Dynasty? According to analyses by relevant historians, the first reason lies in the personal preferences of emperors. When choosing a capital, emperors often favored locations close to their hometowns. Let's look at the founding emperors of several major dynasties after the Tang Dynasty. Zhao Guangyin of the Song Dynasty was from Hunan. To the northern Song, Xi'an was already considered a frontier city. So he ultimately chose Bianliang, modern-day Kaifeng, which was closer to his home, as the capital. Kublai Khan of the Yuan dynasty came from a nomadic Mongol background. Being familiar with the grasslands and prioritizing northern strategies, it made perfect sense for him to establish Beijing, a city near the steppe, as the capital. Zhu Yuanzhang, the founder of the Ming dynasty, came from humble beginnings. He initially wavered between Nanjing and Xi'an, but eventually chose Nanjing, the place he knew best and where he had the strongest base of support. Later, his son Zhu Di successfully launched a rebellion and moved the capital to Beijing, his power base and the place to which he had the deepest emotional connection. Nurhaci of the Qing dynasty was from northeast China. And after his descendants entered the Central Plains, they unhesitatingly set the capital in Beijing, a city that was both close to the Central Plain and maintained ties with their homeland. It can be said that from the Song to the Qing dynasties, the choice of capital was always a mix of geopolitical sentiment and strategic consideration. Given Xi'an's location in the west, it was gradually neglected. The second reason was the devastating aftermath of the Enluchan rebellion. Afterward, Chang'an, modern Xi'an, never truly recovered. Even before the rebellion, the Tang dynasty's national power had been significantly weakened by border troubles and wars. Once the rebellion erupted, Chang'an was repeatedly captured and looted by rebel forces. The Tibetan Empire, and later the forces of Huang Chao. The city was reduced to ruins. Eventually, most of the population either fled or perished. And the surrounding areas were severely depopulated, making reconstruction nearly impossible. Compared to the former grandeur of Chang'an, a world-class metropolis that once welcomed emissaries from all nations, the post-rebellion version was a mere shadow. Rebuilding it to its former glory would have required astronomical investments of financial and material resources, which was simply not cost-effective. Meanwhile, other cities like Bianliang and Beijing had better economic conditions, more convenient transportation, and higher population density, making them far more competitive choices. The third reason was the shift in strategic geography. Enemies changed, and so did the battlefields. When selecting a capital, national security and strategic location are key factors. Looking at history, before the Tang Dynasty, the main external threats faced by Central Plains dynasties came from the northwest. The Northern Di during the Zhou Dynasty, the Xiongnu during the Han, and the Turks during the Sui and Tang. Back then, Xi'an, located on the northwestern frontier, played a critical role, defending the empire and dispatching resources from the heartland. However, starting with the Song Dynasty, the primary threats came from the northeast. The Khitan, Liao Dynasty, the Jurchens, Jin Dynasty, and the Mongols, Yuan Dynasty. As enemies shifted direction, the battlefield moved from the northwest to the northeast. In this new context, Xi'an's location in the west lost its strategic relevance and became too far from the main front. The fourth reason was Xi'an's own environmental degradation, which made it increasingly unfit for the role of a capital. Beyond political and historical causes, the natural environment around Xi'an also gradually deteriorated, severely affecting its sustainability as a capital. For over 1,000 years, Xi'an served as the capital for successive dynasties, from Zhou, Qin, and Han to Tang. With each dynasty came new palaces, deforestation, and environmental strain. As Dumu wrote in The Rhapsody of Apang Gong, during the Qin dynasty's construction of the Apang Gong, even the mountains of Shu, Sichuan, were stripped bare. That was just one dynasty. Later, the Han built the Weiyang Palace. The Tang built the Daming Palace, each more grandiose than the last. Where did the timber for these massive structures come from? Naturally, it was most convenient to cut down nearby forests. But with each tree cut, the ecological balance began to tip. Less forest cover meant soil erosion. Soil erosion led to floods, droughts, and desertification. These disasters caused agricultural yields to plummet. As the ecology worsened and agricultural output declined, the city's sustainable development was severely hampered. According to Tongdian, prefectures and counties. During the Western Han, the Guangzhong region had 44,500 hectares of arable land. By the Tang Dynasty, this number had plummeted to just 6,200 hectares. That's a tenfold decrease. As food production fell and population rose, the city's infrastructure came under immense strain. What to do with the growing amounts of waste and sewage? In ancient times, environmental awareness was minimal. Waste was often dumped into pits or wells, leading to severe groundwater contamination. Water described as salty and briny, unfit for consumption. On top of that, after years of neglect, buildings were dilapidated, and roads were muddy, a far cry from the glory of Tang-era Chang'an. Naturally, such a city no longer had the strength to serve as a national capital. This is the History and Culture channel. Liking and subscribing are the greatest help and support to us. Thank you everyone and see you in the next time.